The council chamber of the Tsar Dominion was silent, eerily silent for a room that usually buzzed with smug laughter and bureaucratic chatter. The High Oracle's voice had cut through the air like a blade, cold and certain. "Humanity will fall within hours," she said, her 6 eyes glinting in the glow of the war table projection. The words were not a prediction. They were a sentence. From orbit above Kari's Prime, the Dominion fleet prepared for its final push toward the pale blue planet humans called Earth. The chamber filled with approving murmurs, claws tapping against the obsidian table. For centuries, the Dominion had expanded without resistance, their war fleets erasing entire species from the stars. Humanity was merely the latest rebellious world, and this time, the Council expected a swift execution. "They are fractured, underarmed, and emotionally volatile," scoffed Warlord Astel, his tusked maw curling into a cruel grin. "We have crushed greater civilizations with less effort. By the end of this cycle, their species will be pacified, those who survive will serve as labor for our next expansion." The council erupted in low, rumbling approval. But not all of them were so certain. Elder Gincourt, the oldest among them, tilted her head. "We said the same of the Drell, and yet their resistance delayed us decades. Do not underestimate the desperate." Astel bared his fangs. "The Drell had fleets. These humans have none." Across the void, far from the Dominion's war room, Commander Sarah Whitlock stood inside the command deck of the USS Resolute, the largest vessel ever constructed by humanity, though very few knew it even existed. Her hands gripped the edge of the tactical table, knuckles white. The screen in front of her painted a grim picture, hundreds of Dominion warships massing at the edge of Sol System space. "They're not coming for negotiations this time," she muttered. "Ma'am," said Lieutenant Aaron Cole, his voice steady despite the tension. "Global governments are evacuating cities into underground shelters. Our defense grid is fully powered and awaiting your go order." Sarah exhaled slowly, her jaw tight. "We don't have the numbers to stop them with conventional forces. We'd be playing their game and losing." "And what's your plan?" Cole asked, though he already suspected the answer. Sarah's gaze hardened. "We show them what humanity's been hiding. We end this, today." Cole nodded, his throat dry. He had heard whispers of the Resolute's true purpose, of Project Blackstar, of weapons that weren't supposed to exist for another century. But until this moment, it had all been rumor. Sarah opened a calm channel to Earth's defense network. "This is Commander Whitlock of the Resolute. Authorizing Blackstar Protocol. You have 30 minutes to clear orbital traffic." Her words carried across the system like a cold wind. Far away, on the Dominion flagship Kravath, Warlord Astel received confirmation that the invasion fleet was in position. "Begin advance," he growled. "Target their satellites first, then their command centers. Cripple their ability to communicate, and they will kneel." The fleet surged forward like a swarm of predators. Back on the Resolute, alarms blared. "Dominion fleet crossing into Sol System," Cole reported. "ETA to Mars orbit, 22 minutes. Sarah's heart pounded, but her voice was calm. "Launch decoys and scramble interceptor drones. Make them think we're panicking. I want them confident when we hit back." "Yes, ma'am." The Resolute began to move, its vast frame cutting through the dark like a silent blade. It was unlike any warship ever built, a hybrid of human ingenuity and something far older, recovered from deep space decades ago. Its hull shimmered with technology no one outside Project Blackstar had ever seen. As the Dominion destroyed Earth's outer satellites, Astel allowed himself a low, guttural laugh. "Pathetic," he muttered. "They will be broadcasting surrender signals within the hour." But then something changed. Sensors picked up a single ship breaking formation, heading directly toward the heart of the Dominion fleet. Not retreating. Not fleeing. Advancing. "What vessel is that?" Astel barked. "Unknown," replied his sensor officer, his crest flattening nervously. "Its energy signature does not match any known human craft. It is massive." Astel narrowed his eyes. "Destroy it." The order went out. Hundreds of Dominion cannons turned and opened fire. Space lit up with plasma bursts, but when the explosions cleared, the human vessel was still there, unscathed. Inside the Resolute, Sarah gave the order. Activate Blackstar weapon systems. The deck lights dimmed. The ship's core thrummed like a living thing. Cole felt the air vibrate, as if the ship itself were taking a deep breath. Target their command carrier, Sarah said. On the viewscreen, the Dominion flagship loomed large, arrogant, and untouchable. Blackstar ready, Cole confirmed. Sarah's voice was a whisper. Fire. What happened next would be recorded across every Dominion archive as the moment their empire began to die. The Resolute's prow erupted in a beam of pure, white light, silent, impossibly fast, like a lance hurled by a god. It tore through the Dominion flagship's shields as if they were paper, then punched straight through its hull. For a brief instant, the massive warship seemed to freeze in space, perfectly still. Then it detonated. The explosion ripped across the fleet like a tidal wave, blinding sensors, frying columns, sending lesser ships tumbling into one another. On the Resolute, Cole stared in awe. Direct hit. The Cravath is gone. Their fleet is in chaos. Sarah didn't smile. Not yet. Then we finish it. Target the next largest vessel. Don't stop firing until they're gone. One by one, Dominion warships were cut down, each shot precise, surgical, devastating. In minutes, a fleet that was supposed to crush humanity was reduced to wreckage burning silently in the void. On the far side of the system, those who survived were retreating, broadcasting panicked calls for reinforcements. Sarah finally allowed herself a breath. Send this message to the Dominion Council, she said quietly. Humanity does not kneel. Not today, not ever. The council chamber fell into stunned silence when the message arrived. The High Oracle's 6 eyes went wide. They were supposed to fall in hours, she whispered. Elder Juncourt closed her eyes, feeling the weight of prophecy unravel in her chest. No, she said. In minutes, they ended us. The Dominion fleet had never suffered a defeat, certainly not like this. In the hours that followed the destruction of the Cravath, shockwaves rippled across the Empire. On every Dominion-controlled world, citizens gathered before public screens as fragments of the human transmission replayed over and over. Humanity does not kneel. Not today, not ever. It wasn't just defiance, it was a declaration of war. In the ruins of the fleet, the surviving warships limped back toward the nearest jump gate. Astel was dead, his flagship scattered across Mars' orbit, but his second-in-command, Commander Vrak, survived. Vrak's claws dug into the arm of his chair as he watched the retreating sensor data. One ship, he snarled. One human ship did this. If the Council sees this footage, we will be stripped of rank, cast into dishonor. A voice crackled through the comms, faint but sharp. Then bring them something better than dishonor, said the High Oracle herself. Vrak's spine stiffened. High Oracle. You will regroup, she hissed. You will strike again, this time with everything. Bring the Dominion's full might to their homeworld. Show these humans the cost of defiance. Vrak's jaw clenched. Yes, Oracle. We will burn their world to cinders. On Earth, the mood was a strange mix of terror and awe. News outlets struggled to explain what had happened in orbit, and governments issued carefully worded statements urging calm. But among the military, there was no illusion about what was coming next. Commander Sarah Whitlock stood in the war room aboard the Resolute, surrounded by holographic projections of retreating Dominion ships. Lieutenant Aaron Cole joined her, holding a datapad filled with intelligence updates. They're massing reinforcements, he said grimly. We're reading multiple battle groups forming near the Kari's Gate. This isn't a raid anymore. This is an extermination fleet. Sarah nodded. She had expected nothing less. Then we don't wait for them to bring the fight to Earth. Cole blinked. You're suggesting we take Resolute through the gate? Yes. There was silence in the room. Even the other officers looked uneasy. No human ship had ever passed through a Dominion-controlled gate before. Ma'am, Cole said carefully, if we cross that line, we're taking the war into their territory. This won't be a skirmish anymore. It'll be total war. Sarah's expression was carved from steel. They already declared total war the moment they came for Earth. The only way this ends is if we make them afraid to ever come back. Hours later, the Resolute prepared for its first interstellar jump. Crews moved like ghosts, silent, tense, every action precise. Jump coordinates locked, Cole reported, his voice low. Sarah placed a hand on the console. Do it. Space tore open like a wound as the jump drive engaged. For a moment, the ship seemed to hang in a tunnel of light, then it emerged in a star system deep in Dominion space. What they saw was staggering. Ahead floated a shipyard the size of a small moon, surrounded by dozens of unfinished warships, supply haulers, and defense platforms. It was the beating heart of the Dominion's war machine, and humanity had just stepped into it. Ma'am, Cole breathed, if we destroy this, we cripple their ability to replace their losses. Sarah didn't hesitate. Target the shipyard core. Fire Blackstar on my mark. In the Dominion Council chamber, alarms began to blare. Holograms showed the human warship appearing in their own territory, its weapons charging. The High Oracle's composure cracked for the first time. How are they here already? She demanded. Elder Jinkor's voice was quiet, almost mournful. Because we taught them to fight us. And they learned faster than we feared. The Resolute's main gun fired. A lance of searing energy tore through the shipyard's core reactor. For a brief, impossible second, the entire structure seemed to implode on itself, then it erupted outward in a silent shockwave, shattering platforms, igniting fuel depots, scattering half-assembled warships into molten fragments. Direct hit, Cole reported, but his voice was tight. We've just made every Dominion system aware of our presence. Their reinforcements will be here in minutes. Then we finish the job before they arrive, Sarah ordered. The Resolute swung like a predator, targeting defense platforms one by one, cutting them down with terrifying precision. When the Dominion fleet finally arrived, they didn't find a lone human ship cowering in fear. They found a predator waiting for them. Multiple enemy contacts, Cole shouted. They're trying to flank us. Sarah's tone was ice. Deploy drone swarms, full perimeter defense. Keep Blackstar cycling, don't let them regroup. The battle that followed was unlike anything the Dominion had ever experienced. Their weapons struck true, but the Resolute's shields bent reality around themselves, shrugging off impacts that would have vaporized ordinary vessels. Inside the command deck, officers worked feverishly, sweat beading on their brows. The ship thrummed with each firing cycle, a titan roaring in defiance. Another enemy cruiser destroyed, Cole said, his voice almost disbelieving. They can't break through our perimeter. They will, Sarah said grimly. Eventually. We need to make sure when we leave, there's nothing left for them to fight with. Minutes later, the star system was a graveyard. The once proud Dominion shipyard was gone, its remains drifting like ash in the void. The surviving Dominion ships limped back toward the outer system, their formations shattered. Sarah stood in silence, staring at the tactical display. That should slow them down, she said finally. But it won't stop them. Not yet. Cole swallowed hard. Ma'am, the galaxy is watching this. Every Dominion world, every client species, they all saw what we just did. Good, Sarah said. Let them know what happens to anyone who comes for Earth. On the other side of the galaxy, fear spread faster than any transmission. The Dominion's enemies, long oppressed, beaten, enslaved, began whispering about the humans. About the ship that destroyed fleets, that struck at the heart of the Empire and lived. For the first time in generations, the Dominion's rule no longer felt inevitable. And in the council chamber, the High Oracle's claws trembled. If they can strike our shipyards, she said slowly, they can strike our worlds. Elder Jinkor looked at her with grim finality. They already have. You just don't know it yet. The Dominion's response was swift and furious. Within days of the shipyard's destruction, every loyal fleet across 3 sectors was recalled, and conscription was declared on dozens of worlds. Entire populations were pressed into service. The Council's message was clear: humanity will be eradicated, no matter the cost. But the galaxy had changed. Fear had shifted. What was once fear of the Dominion was now fear of humanity, a species that had stood against annihilation and struck back harder. On board the USSS Resolute, Commander Sarah Whitlock stood before a new tactical projection. This time, the display was worse than anything she had seen before. Dominion fleet strength at estimated 60% of total capacity, Lieutenant Aaron Cole reported grimly. They're converging on the Soul Gate. If they push through, there's no way we can hold them at Earth with one ship, even with Blackstar. Sarah's jaw tightened. Then we don't hold them at Earth, she said. Cole frowned. You want to hit them before they cross? I want to end this before they can cross. Sarah turned to her crew. Prepare the Omega sequence. The room went silent. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. The Omega sequence had been discussed only in theory, a last resort weapon that even Project Blackstar's architects had feared to use. Ma'am, Cole said carefully, if we detonate something of that scale inside a star system, we're talking total sterilization. Millions of civilian lives are already forfeit if we do nothing, Sarah said, her voice low, steady. They will not stop. Every world they burn will have blood on our hands if we hesitate now. The silence stretched, heavy and grim. Finally, Cole nodded. Understood, ma'am. Omega prep begins now. The Resolute jumped to the Caris system, the very heart of the Dominion Empire. It was here the Council sat in their obsidian spire, confident that their seat of power was untouchable. The moment the ship emerged from jump, alarms lit up across the system. Orbital batteries locked on, defense fleets scrambled, the entire planet bracing for the unthinkable. Broadcast system-wide, Sarah ordered. A comm officer opened the channel. Across every Dominion-controlled screen, every military channel, every public broadcast, Sarah's face appeared, a human face, cold and resolute. This is Commander Sarah Whitlock of Earth, she said, her voice echoing through every hall and war room. You brought war to our world. You thought we would break. You thought we would kneel. Instead, we have come here, to the heart of your empire, to end this. In the council chamber, the High Oracle rose to her feet, her 6 eyes wide. Get me a direct line to that ship, she roared. Moments later, Sarah's image appeared on the chamber's massive screen. You dare speak in our hall, the Oracle hissed. I dare do more than speak, Sarah replied. Stand down your fleets. End your campaign against Earth. Or we end your empire in the next 10 minutes. The council erupted into shouting. Warlords slammed their fists on the table, demanding Sarah's immediate destruction. The Oracle bared her fangs. You won't fire. You're bluffing. No species would doom billions for vengeance. Sarah's eyes were ice. This isn't vengeance. This is survival. She cut the channel. Inside the Resolute, the countdown began. The Omega warhead, a device that harnessed the same energy as a collapsing star, was armed and ready. Enemy fleets approaching, Cole reported. 3 minutes until they're in weapons range. Hold position, Sarah said. Keep the warhead locked on the primary. Cole hesitated. Ma'am, what if they don't believe you? They will, Sarah said. But her knuckles were white as she gripped the console. In the council chamber, Elder Gincourt stood and raised a trembling hand. Listen to me, she pleaded. We have never faced an enemy like this. They have shown us what they are willing to do. If we push them further, there will be no Dominion left to rule. The Oracle snarled. You would have us surrender to primitives? Gincourt's voice rose, stronger than it had been in years. They are no longer primitives. They are the fire that will consume us all. The fleet reached weapons range, and still the Resolute did not fire. Inside the ship, Sarah watched the countdown tick to 2 minutes. Transmit one final message, she said. Cole nodded, sending the hail. Sarah's voice echoed one last time across the system. This is your final chance. You have 2 minutes to decide the fate of your empire. The council chamber was chaos, half screaming for attack, half screaming for surrender. Finally, the oracle's claws curled into the table. Stand down, she hissed. The order rippled out through every Dominion channel. Across the system, fleets powered down their weapons, halting their advance. On the Resolute, Cole's console lit up. They're signaling a ceasefire, he said, his voice almost disbelieving. Sarah exhaled slowly. Disarm Omega. Bring us about. The warhead powered down, its deadly glow fading to nothing. Hours later, negotiations began. The Dominion signed a ceasefire that would become a full surrender within weeks. Entire sectors broke away, forming new coalitions, some aligning with Earth, others declaring independence. The Dominion Empire, which had ruled the stars for centuries, was no more. Months later, Sarah Whitlock stood on the observation deck of the Resolute, staring out at the blue glow of Earth below. Cole joined her, his hands in his pockets. You ended an empire in minutes, he said softly. Sarah shook her head. We didn't end them. They ended themselves the moment they underestimated us. All we did was remind them that humanity isn't prey. Cole nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. And now the galaxy knows. Sarah's gaze hardened, but there was a glint of pride there too. Good. Let them know. Because we're done kneeling. The stars stretched out before them, no longer a frontier, but a promise.